Hello. Hey guys, welcome back to the Bible Study Girl podcast. This is Sarita, but you know me as Bible Study Girl. And coughing in the background at the very beginning of our music intro is the executive producer of this podcast, Bible Study Brother. And I said podcast instead of podcast. I heard it. So, I mean, we all make mistakes.
Yeah. Anyway, it's your guy, Icarus Gray, also known as Bible Study Brother. Go over to Gray Area Anime Podcast because there's so much podcasting for you.
Yes, podcasting is the new wave, and there's so many different podcasts out there that you could listen to. We're so grateful that you chose to give us a little bit of your time, a little bit of your listening ear. Today, we're going to talk about dun dun dun. Do I have drum rolls? No.
No, I don't think so.
No. Okay.
Sorry.
Well, okay. Well, drum roll, please. We're going to talk about therapy. Oh, well, sorry. We're getting back in the groove. Bit by bit, we're getting there. And let me tell you, and we've talked about this before, but we have a running list of things that we want to talk about on the Bible Study Girl podcast. And today was, it was a little difficult to decide what we wanted to talk about. As we were discussing the topics that we could talk about, the topic of therapy came up, and that's what today's podcast is about. And Bible Study Brother did not realize that I was not a proponent of therapy. Like, I was not a big pusher for therapy.
I've always wanted to talk to somebody, so it's more me, personality thing. Funny, before I went to ninth grade, I think I was like I was being me. I don't really know what was going on during this time, but I remember Mama took me to a therapist to see if I had ADD or whatever. And I remember in the experience, like a lot of the times I think the reason I don't have a aversion to therapy is because I'm always seeking somebody to see me. So like when we went, in my head, like it was a test to do whatever, I'm thinking, oh, well, maybe you'll figure out why this and why that, and then I can change that about this. Or he'll be like, he's actually a savant. You know, or like in this, that's what this in is. This thing, and I'll be like, it makes sense. I just don't work like that, or you know, my brain doesn't do whatever. Because even though there were people around me, I spent a lot of time by myself.
You did
more often than what would be assumed by my presumed extroverted personality. I'm an introvert, 100%, but you know, so I've just never been averse to it. So I'd like to know, why did it start there for you? I guess
it started there for me personally. This might not be everybody's experience, but my thought process was I need to take it to Jesus and leave it there. And also, it was not preached from, not that it has to be preached from the pulpit, but I personally, this is not everybody else's experience. You know, I can only speak for myself, but I kind of felt like it was looked down upon to go to a man or a psychiatrist when God, you know, sees you. He knows everything about you. So why would you need to go sit on somebody else's couch to talk about it? I mean, in hindsight, looking at it now as an adult, people run to their pastors for counseling. You know, and oftentimes pastors, how much experience do they have? Like
counseling.
Yes, I mean,
like we have my pastor, his wife is trained in these things.
Yeah, she's trained. So that was a struggle for me. The first time I went to therapy, I was 19 years old. It was after I got married. Nobody knew I was married.
Oh, and I wasn't around for this. So.
You were there. There was an incident, and after the incident, my mama was like, "Clearly, you are suffering from mental issues. You need to see a psychiatrist. So for like a year, I went to go see a psychiatrist. But even at that point, I was not
I
fully
know I would have
body.
remembered that you would have been going at least, because that would have been around the time. Because what grade were you in?
I was 19. I
So
was
you was
married. I was secretly married.
Yeah.
You remember the incident that popped off not too long? Yes, okay.
We'll talk about that one day.
No, I don't think we will,
Yeah, we
but
will.
okay, I don't think so, but all right. You know, I believe in transparency. If I felt like it could help somebody, I definitely would share it.
Oh, 100%.
You think it could help someone?
Yes, because okay, because
no, but let me tell. So go ahead.
A lot of the times you made the most egregiously young mistakes, and it's not like if you had a conversation about therapy now and how it could have opened your mind and how you should have been more open to it, there are a whole lot of things that would be different. Now, granted, God wanted you to go through what you had to go through, but being closed off to it at that time was like, yeah.
I was very closed off to it. I would go and I would talk. And honestly, you want to know what I spent most of my therapy sessions with him talking about mom and daddy's relationship and not my own, not my secret marriage. We discussed parts of my marriage, but I was so disgusted with their relationship at that time. That's what I spent that was a place for me to vent, to get it out.
We talked about that a lot in therapy, more so than any other topic, I think.
When you went to therapy initially?
No, well, that's what I went for, was because of the divorce.
That's why I'm talking, well, okay.
Well, the first time was because of...
So how old were you? You went when you were in the ninth grade. When did you start going to therapy?
2005.
Okay.
So that's, again, around the same age as you. But it's like
19,
17, but it's 17 at that point, because I would have been 16, 17, because that was at the height of divorce, like moving out of my childhood home, having to see my father every day when I was not in a place to where I really wanted to see my father every day.
Right.
And mama just wanted to help. Like I said, at that point, that's why I was doing the timelines. You had already probably been, well, not, you had done your year.
I had long done my year. You know, I'm so much older than you.
But it was one of the members of the church that suggested this young man. And what's funny is the only thing I talked about was my relationship
with your now wife.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because he gave me like this book. Basically, like, I felt at that time there was literally no one in my corner for having a relationship. Like, I understood then that relationships are hard. You just have to work on them. And I mean, now granted, I was also holding tight to it because of my own feelings about our parents' divorce, in that sense of like, I don't want to fail. I don't want to be this. I don't want to be this.
Right.
Which makes you exactly the thing that you don't want to
be. It does.
Because you're just going so extreme at it. So even if I was like coming from a good place in my heart, we were young. There were strains on our relationship. Like I said, no one says like, y'all can do this. You just have to be able to do this. You have to be able to do that. There's like no one in your corner in your teen age years that's like, here's how you sculpt that into good habits for relationship building. Majority of the time, I feel like we just kind of push that stuff off to the side, and then it's like, well, when you get married, figure it out, kids.
Okay. So was your therapy helpful? How long did you go your first time you went?
One time.
Just once?
One time.
Once. Okay.
We may have gone twice, but I only remember the one time because he like had this book, like this kid book looking thing that he had me read about. The stars go basically like, y'all gonna break up, fam, kind of thing. And I was just like, screw you. I had to listen. That is a toned down version of what I wanted to say, because we don't do that on this podcast. And so like, I didn't really feel like it helped, but I was also at that time seeking people to finally understand what it was I was saying, or to be on my side, period. Because I didn't have it.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Because like everything that was going on with them, You were gone.
I was out of the house.
So,
I was out of the house, not out of the state yet, but I was definitely
you
out.
know, like I didn't have I didn't have very many places where I could vent my deep dark secrets.
Which is why that first year that I went to therapy, it was talking about their relationship, what I saw that I didn't like, and what I did not want for my life. I still, like you said, hadn't gotten to the point where I could say, okay, well, what's wrong with me? You see what you don't want. What are you going to do to make sure that your life is healthy? And you do need a place where you can vent, where you can talk to people that are not invested on either side, where you can just spill it and you don't have to worry about it coming back to you.
And you can hear things objectively.
Yes, and you can hear from somebody that's not involved, somebody that doesn't have any dog in the fight. They can just give you good insight. So I would say I needed that. I needed a place where I could release and just say what I was thinking and be done with it. But mentally, I was not in a place where I really was ready to start doing the work on me.
Yeah, no one really is. And the other big thing, I think you were saying earlier, and this is not everybody's experience. I'll at least clarify it with that. But they demonized therapists.
Yes.
Period. Like whether it was media and everything else, like they made every therapist in the world seem like somebody that went and learned the brain, and somehow with that they dismissed all things God.
Right. That's the thing.
So that was the other thing. Is like, you're not even gonna understand where I'm coming from. You over here talking about this Freudian blah blah blah, and you ain't used not a scripture yet to because of the way they made it seem like you could not have these two things
like
exist.
You couldn't have both at the same time. And you can. And I will say that even when we started therapy with Mama, my mindset was not going so I could fix me. I went so I could fix y'all.
I went to, like, anybody I was like, you finally gonna say the thing that's gonna show that person that they was wrong.
Yes.
But that's the thought. It's like, and it's not even so much that I don't want to look at me, but it's like, because we are so solidly stubborn in the most just annoying ways.
It is annoying.
Saying that from, because I know my wife gets sick of me.
I know
it's
she
just,
does.
it's just
You're very stubborn. But we are.
I come from an honest.
Yeah,
like, I
got it honest.
I don't know nothing else, but and I'm learning differently and trying to, soften my heart on different things. But it's like, I can look at myself if you just see how I'm right first.
It's true.
And it's not even like, and it sounds crazy, but it's more, and it is.
It is.
And it is, but it's more so like, can you at least see where I'm coming from? Is literally all we're asking. And it sounds crazy, but if you were just like, yes, and then you got to explain to me how you see where I'm coming from, then I'm like, all right, everything you said is right. I just had to, I just needed to know that I was understood.
So when we started therapy together as a family, what were your thoughts? Do you remember how you felt after the first session?
I mean, I didn't want to go back.
Okay.
Because I remember we was all just kind of, because we were talking about Uncle Michael. That was the reason we did it. And it was a whole lot of things that he asked of us at that time, I think. Because I think it was like months. Because I think we might have done like 2 sessions before I was just like,
out.
Because like he asked me to go to like a grieving something or other. And I'm like, oh no.
Yeah, not doing that.
I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
Like, and it was more so because like, and we're also going to do an episode on grieving. We've said it twice. It'll probably be the next one that we record. Just because I'm in
really
that mode.
Important. Yeah.
But I just didn't know how. And I still don't know how. Like my
we'll talk about it.
Yeah.
Like, don't go down that
the therapy session of it is like, I didn't know what I needed to have healed.
Right.
And it wasn't until like spiritual things alongside the tools that he gave were the things that built everything up. When he like would have us write down the conflict resolutions, And it's simple things. It's literally like it blew my mind at how like, oh, this is just stuff that we should do. It's not even like, and he's also a spiritual man.
He was a pastor for 20 years.
So we were able to get the things that they said we couldn't have.
Right.
So on top of you saying, well, that's classic narcissism in the sense of something that he was discussing. He also was like, here are some scriptures, that it says here, this.
And not only scriptures, but these are practical ways to deal with this.
Mm-hmm.
Like we want to live by the word, but a lot of times if you don't spend years in seminary and going, scripture is so deep. It goes beyond just reading those words. It's having a real true understanding. And it helps to have somebody that can peel back layers for you, layers of you and layers of the word and say, here,
amen.
Don't misinterpret this. This is what the scripture says. And this is how you can live it out.
It is the most because I'm not the most learned person. Like I know the word, I know, but I've never read through the entire Bible. That's something that I'm
on my track. We can talk about that
I'm doing it. I'm working on it now. I missed like 20 some odd days in July, but then I would just like listen to 2 of them a day since you can like listen to them or whatever. But the thing that is such the simplest explanation of this scripturally, if God gives us talents, why would you not use them?
Right.
And why would he limit talents to just the church in that way of like, that just doesn't make sense.
It doesn't.
It doesn't make sense that the people who, creating lights and better homes and all this other stuff and computers, so on and so forth, like no God in it. And what we would do is we separate things that just should have never been separated.
Correct. Like the Bible tells us to get wise counsel.
Yeah.
It tells us to. And I think that was a struggle for me. And that is why it took me a long time to embrace therapy and to even be in therapy. Individually, like in therapy with y'all as a family, and then in therapy individually. I've been in therapy for 5 years at this point.
Ooh, yeah.
And I would say, really within the last year and a half, I've had the biggest breakthroughs because there's so much you have to unpeel, so much you have to unpack. So it was not a quick process, and it is not a quick process. But I know for me, it's been life-changing and it saved my life. And even just the process in general, it just has not been easy. Like I said, I started off very resistant to the idea.
Yeah. When
you're resistant to the idea, of course, you're not going to open up or really be able to put it all out there like you need to really get help. So... And even initially when I started going to my individual therapy, it was really just to talk about what happened in group therapy. And
no, we knew. And that's what that was finna be my comment. And I said the other part that like in our first session, he was like, y'all are really like, y'all are the most no boundaried having
we had no
people
boundaries.
I have seen. And like, I've never seen this before.
Right.
And he's laughing at us, but at the same time, and like, so when that happens, because it's like we talked about pretty much everything. Like, I mean, we all had the stuff that we didn't talk about. Well, me and Sarita had things we would not talk about to one another. Mama had stuff she didn't want to talk about, but that we knew about because we're her children.
We know. Yeah.
Anyway, and with that, so the reason I brought that up is because it made it so terrible to go by people's self. Because then I'm like, I don't know what you talked about. I bet you was talking all the crap in the world in your session. Right. Like, and I bet, like, I don't even know if you know you wrong. Like, or if you like, or whatever. But, and even I think looking back on our session after, everything that happened with us, like, and having poor Kanae, sitting in that session
Kanae was not there
She
for
was.
our session. No, not at all.
I thought she was because I thought it was
No.
me. I
No,
don't know. I
you
just
just
play
add.
away.
She was there in your head. You needed
Yeah.
her for comfort and strength,
Oh
but
yeah,
she
because wasn't nobody
definitely
else there for
was
my comfort and
not
strength.
there.
But I think about that and the things that he asked us and said then, and like like I said, where we are now, it's like anytime he says something, like even if I'm, and this is how I know I've grown, even in the moment if I'm like, nah, that's crap. I don't care. You didn't say what I need you to say. As soon as I leave, I'm like, I should probably try that. And it's just stuck in the back of my head and I'm doing it. Because like we did a lot of those things that he asked of us without it being, and to end up here, like we always say, like y'all doing this podcast is a product of therapy and
It is
spiritual growth.
Both.
In part. Because if we did not have that therapy, like the spiritual growth would have just been one of those selfish things that you do where you're like, well, I know the word.
Right.
But the big thing I think is the stigma of mental health, and people are more open about talking about it in the Black community.
Yeah.
Because, and this
more
is again,
open now. It's
more open now, but it's
really
still there are still a lot of research and things that have to be done because you have the astute people that talk about PTSD in general, the fact that we are generally genetically predisposed to having PTSD from just being Black.
Just being black in America is a traumatizing experience. Black people need therapy just for that reason. Forget issues you have in your family, any personal issues you have. Being Black in America, it can be very traumatic.
In a lot of different ways because you start off by, everything starts out normal. We've said this before with spending time with like friends back in the day, white friends or whatever, and getting to an age where you're like, what's going on? Why are we not hanging out no more? Like, what happened here? Or the bad habits, mental habits that we have with friends.
Right.
Like, we hold on to people that, because they've been there 10 years, that we should have let go 3 years ago.
Yeah.
Because, but it's a mental thing that you do not notice because we don't know how to detach mentally.
True. Mental health is so important, and I think we're doing a disservice to ourselves as Christians and just as human beings when we don't fully take care of our whole bodies. People talk about your cholesterol and your blood pressure, but we also need to be very aware that mental health is important. It's not necessarily something easy and it's not something comfortable, but neither is me running a 5K, but it's something that I can, train for. I can train for it. And so that's why I wanted to talk about therapy and just mental health today, because it was not, if you had talked to me even 6 years ago, I would not have been like, go see somebody and talk to them. But now anybody I know that's going through something, I'm like, hey,
I'm quick with that.
You might want to go talk to somebody. And another reason I do that is because a lot of times we dump our personal issues on our friends and our family, but we're still not ready to change.
You can do that in terrible ways. You can have people who are upset when you decide to live your life because you can't carry all of their negative stuff every day.
Right.
And then now you're the bad, most evil person in the world because you can't carry their burdens because you're not meant to or supposed to.
Right. And and going to therapy really has helped me to define some boundaries in my life that were necessary for me to grow and for me to be whole. And that's an adjustment for a lot of people in my life. That's something very different. Because like our therapist said, we had no boundaries.
No.
You do whatever you want to do and however you want to do it, it's fine. It's fine. But that's not a healthy life. And so.
No. And I mean, the biggest thing was like, regardless of what happened with the fallout with us, but it built the boundaries that needed to be built regardless.
It did.
And it's the biggest thing that I never, because like, if I never, regardless of how we feel about it, agree to disagree on it, if I had never done that to make a decision for myself, I would have made no decision for myself. I would have made the decisions under the guise of what you thought, what mama thought, and I wouldn't have, as much as it made me feel alone, it did make me feel like you have to make it.
Right.
You got to make your own decisions. This is your marriage. You know, it's not your marriage with your wife plus your sister. And even, you know, I see the growth in like, so when I like come to you and I'm talking to you about a situation, or if, you know, Kanae's mad at me, or if I'm mad at something, even your manner of advice, the way in which you speak because of how much you've grown is different. Whereas we'd be like, oh, it wouldn't matter if I was a blind man. I'd be telling you how to see.
That is
you
true.
know what I'm saying? And vice versa. Like, that's just what we would do, because know it all is a very mean phrase, but it's
I don't think
true.
I don't think it's mean. It's truth for us. We
true.
know it all. All of us individually know it all. So when you get us together, you can know it all, and I can know it all. And I'm just gonna know it all. Like
we just gonna know it.
Yeah.
And I know what I know, and I know. And,
Jesus definitely saved our relationship. Therapy saved our relationship. Therapy saved our relationship. Without me going to therapy and growing as a person, I would not. This would not be happening.
Like, and I was telling you, without the therapy, we wouldn't have been able to make strides. It would not have made me realize that, in a lot of ways, like I was telling you, like, I love you regardless. I said, I know that we have, you know, different male figures and examples in our life. And as I've said before, but I'm here, you know, I'm not going nowhere. Like I wanted to say that as a man to you, not as your brother, not as whatever, but I wanted to say it in a way to where you need to see that I'm here. Because a lot of times, because I'm little brother and baby brother, you can't see it in a way of thinking that this person can be there in a way that would help assist, build, or do whatever. Yes.
Personal aside, since you are here for me as a man and as my brother,
I don't know what you're about to ask me to do.
I need for you to clean my gutters out. But keep going.
Okay.
You wanted me to know that you are here.
That's
it's hot. You can do it when the sun is like coming down, but I'm listening.
Okay. I'll do that, but you're not going to get the other thing done if that's the case.
I will talk off there.
No.
I don't know what the other thing is.
The other thing is.
Oh, no. That's the definite.
No, it's not.
That's a lifelong commitment.
It's not.
It is, but literally it is. Okay.
So clip his nails yourself.
I will not.
Oh,
I do all the clipping of the nails. I just need for you to put a toy in his mouth so that he doesn't bite me while I'm clipping the nails. That's your lifetime commitment. Okay.
Fine, but whatever. So you can get your requests out at the same time. But
yeah,
like,
I appreciate you.
Because that was all Dr. Chamberlain. That's what his name is. I don't care what you say.
You just violated my HIPAA. Anyway. And that's not his name.
It is.
Anyway, so we'll have a whole discussion about that. But that's really not, though. You can't make it be so, but it's not. Okay. But it's not. Anyway. Therapy has been great for us. It's definitely been a growth for us. And God has been gracious to us. My hope and my prayer is that everybody gets to a space where they're healthy all around, and not just, I just think it's important for us to look at our whole selves, our spiritual selves, financial, emotional, physical, all those things. They matter and they are important. And so I just wanted to share a little bit about my thoughts of therapy and how they have grown over the years. Because I can't believe you didn't know that I wasn't really into therapy.
No, just because I knew you were stubborn.
I'm there, and that's a big issue. Like I
also thought that with how creative you are, it is hard to believe that, like, you are the literal definition of a anal creative. Like, I don't know how that works, but it works. Like, you wouldn't think that with how you box yourself in your organization, that you could do the things that you do. because it's it blossoms into big things like the podcast.
I am like a paradox. Like I like
You're an
boxes,
oxymoron.
and I yeah, like that's the God in me, man.
Like, cause this guy going like if you planned out a wedding and things that you've planned and decorated for, like you look at these things and you're like, I don't know how you could think of this in a box.
That is true.
But you like get it done in a box. I need you here by this time. You know, if you ain't here by this time, you getting cut. You know, whatever the case may be.
I will cut somebody, not with my knife, but you
Both.
remember that time I stopped talking to that person because
Yeah.
I asked them to do something
Yes.
and they ain't do it. Okay,
Yes.
all right.
Yes, it was supposed to be. But that person didn't do a lot that day. That was the most
Like,
hilarious conversation ever.
Okay, but anyway,
Uh,
therapy is good, guys. I don't want to
Therapy's
get too off
Man,
the
listen.
mark. I came in feeling real heavy today, and I feel better. I felt real heavy, like not just weight wise. Like,
oh my God. So every day there are blog posts. Every day, people. Every day since September of last year. It's amazing.
mm-hmm.
So go there, BibleStudyGirl.com. If you want to be on the Twitterverse, because y'all be tweeting Bible Study Girl, the number 2. On the Instagrams, it's _ Bible Study Girl. And then the email, I don't know why I wanted to just call it a Gmail, but it's an email. It's BibleStudyGirl2019@gmail.com. Do that, people, because this is therapy for us, and we want to be here for you as well. And if you need help being directed to certain places, we can try and facilitate if we can.
Right.
Because it's not just you preach or she preach or he preach or, they preach. It's we preach.
And until we meet again, guys, keep preaching.